Welcome in, everybody. It is that time of the day for the Vendetta Sports Media Daily Show. It is Monday, August 28th. Jerry Walker alongside me is Jackson Fida again. We're here to probably bring you some more soccer coverage because that is what we here to do. Jackson, before we get into all the latest news, how are you? How was the weekend?
It's good, good, fun little weekend, and yeah, ready for my first real week of senior year of college. So yeah,
Hey, this time next year you'll be done with college and
yeah,
you look into the real world, and
terrifying,
it's something. I'll tell you that much. But
terrifying to think about.
yeah, getting into some of this stuff. We'll start in the MLS because that was the big news. Lionel Messi making his MLS debut for Inter Miami, taking on the New York Red Bulls in New York. And Messi came on after the 60th minute. It was already 1-0 at that point, and he managed to get on the score sheet once again.
Yeah, and that was maybe one of the most ridiculous balls I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, yeah.
That was actually insane. He had basically 4 or 5 guys around him, 4 in close proximity, and he picks out Kremeshi with the outside of his left foot, plays a perfect on the dot pass, and then just Kremeshi's able to just play it right back across. He taps it in. It is actually one of the craziest passes I've ever seen. When you look at the technical difficulty of it, to drive inside, not only to have the vision to see Kremeshi, to see the run, see where it needs to go, but then to execute it with the outside of your boot is crazy. The weight was perfect. The placement was perfect. And then from there on out, Kremeshi just played it back in. Messi just walked the ball in, basically. But that was actually one of the craziest passes I think I've ever seen.
No, it was absolutely one of the most pinpoint passes we've seen in a long time. I heard the commentators are saying only one person in the world can make that kind of pass.
It's Messi.
I personally would disagree. I think there are other guys, but it's only like three or four maybe. And Messi doing it the way he did. As I said to someone I was talking to about this, there's only one player in the MLS that can make that pass for
Oh,
sure, and
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
Messi. And like you said,
Yeah.
pinpoint delivery. He couldn't have put the ball. If he put it anywhere else, it would have hit a defender or would have been too far for Kremeshi to get to. That perfect placement, ball driven back across the box, and like you said, Messi just taps it in, giving Miami a 2-0 win. And really, this is going to be the interesting part now because sure, Messi won't be playing as many minutes, I don't think, now in the season. And Miami still has their work cut out for him. That gave them 21 points through 23 matches. They're in 14th place. Got to get to ninth, as we said, and they're only 11 points back of that ninth place Chicago Fires team, who they had struggles of their own this weekend, losing 3-0 and having a player sent off.
Yeah.
It's going to make it for a very interesting race, I think, at the end.
Yeah. Chicago's really making this thing interesting, aren't they?
Yep.
They're sinking without a trace, it feels like. But yeah, I mean, right now, Inter Miami 21 points, Chicago 32. If Inter Miami wins their next few games, they'll be on 27. That'll be 5 points off. Uh, yeah, it's doable. It's very, very doable at this point. Granted, there are other teams that are still ahead of them, like DC United's in 10th, Red Bulls right there in 11th. But no one's played as few games as Inter Miami. So if they win their 2 games, they'll actually still probably be in like 12th, 11th place. But it's very doable, especially with how they're playing right now. The key thing is going to be how they perform with Messi getting more limited minutes because of how fatigued he is.
Mm.
As great as he is, people need to remember he's an old man for soccer. He really is.
He is 36, so
He's 36, which I know for most people is still very young, but for a soccer player, especially one like Messi, where you're constantly moving, trying to create stuff, sprinting a lot when you're in attack, you can't go as much as you're used to be able to. So it's going to be interesting to see how they deal without Messi on the field all the time. I mean, they're still up 1-0 in New York without him playing. So they'll probably still be fine. They still have a very good team, and they have Tata Martino managing them. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how they deal with that. But Chicago is definitely opening the door for sure.
Yes, they are. And I mean, even looking at the Inter Miami squad, sure, Jordi Alba played, but there was no Busquets came on in the second half at least for minimal minutes. So they're finding ways to win in that first half, and if that's what they really need to do. It's like what I've spoken about before in the NBA. You bring out, say, LeBron. The Lakers need to find another guy to step up. Other players need to step up and do it as a team. Whereas now Inter Miami, when Messi's on the pitch, he can orchestrate. He'll bring in pressure, as will Busquets. But when the two of them are not playing, it's up to everyone else to kind of keep it going. Joseph Martinez, Diego Gomez, who scored the goal the other day, Robert Taylor. It has to be a full team effort, and I think now that I think a lot of their issue was the management side. Tata Martinez is definitely a much better manager than Neville. So
Yeah, Neville was terrible. Martino is actually a good manager. I know, piss off a lot of Mexican national team fans by saying that, but he is a good manager. We could have a whole nother discussion about what's wrong with Mexico, in my opinion, right now. But yeah, Martino's a great manager who's had success in the MLS in the past. He has an MLS Cup to his name with Atlanta, so he knows what it's like to get it done. Neville was an absolute dumpster fire, so I think that's a huge kind of positive change as well. I think it came about because of Messi. I don't think they get Martino without Messi, personally.
I agree.
But yeah, I mean, when Messi came, suddenly you got all these other players and Martino. So it's a whole kind of seismic shift, if you will, for Inter Miami. And yeah, like you said, even when Messi's not there, now it looks like they are more than capable of winning games.
Yes, they are. And I mean, we did see Messi have to play a lot of games with Inter Miami through that Leagues Cup. And there was talk of, you've already mentioned fatigue for Messi, might be fatigue for the whole team. I know we saw Nashville make the final of that and then get whooped in their first game back against Atlanta 4-0. And it looked like a very tired Nashville side there. So it's the fatigue's real in this, especially when you played so many matches in such a short span. Usually you play like what, 4, maybe 5 matches in a month. They were playing 7 in a month. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot of games, especially because was it Messi win 90 in all but one? I want to say one when he came off the bench. Yeah, so that's a lot of minutes, and for like Kamal Miller, I think played 90 every single game. That's going to be a lot on the legs, but I mean, impressive return to like regular season MLS play for that for sure. Because like you said, Nashville, who played the same amount of games, got their asses absolutely handed to them in their first game back. So, I mean, that's positive signs if you're an Inter Miami fan, for sure, or better yet, more realistically, a Lionel Messi fan, because that's what they all are at this point. But because that means something's working, and there is definitely hope that you can make the playoffs if you're able to perform like that with your stars getting rest.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the next match for them. Let's say Monday, Wednesday, they play home to Nashville. Be a kind of a rematch of that match you saw last week. Fatigue's going to be a big one in that one, and I think that's kind of the game where Nashville's down at the moment. They're gassed. Miami's gassed. It might be one of the typical sloppy MLS games, but it's that point where maybe one player, there's Robert Taylor, Joseph Martinez, they can make that big difference against a Nashville side that's not looked good in their one match since the Leagues Cup. So that'd be a big win for them as well, because Nashville is now only in 7th place. They're 38 points to 17 more, but that's not out of the picture for Miami if they put a run together. Like you said before on a different episode, we don't expect Miami to run the table. We don't expect them to win everything at this moment. Next year, potentially. But this year, it just seems too much to ask for them to go on a crazy run, especially with fatigue taking place.
Yeah, I mean, it is possible, but I just think that human element will kick in because everyone gets tired and everyone drops their form at some point, even Messi. Right. So, like you said, we don't expect him to win out or do all that, but I mean, shit, they're still unbeaten, and
what now? 11 9 games for him.
Yeah, it's pretty decent start to your MLS career.
Yeah. I do want to stay on a little bit more on the Messi side right now because there was some news that he might be facing punishment from the MLS. He was required to do a post-match press conference with the media in New York. Messi did not attend that press conference. Partially, from what I've read, it's because he doesn't speak very good English. think most of us know that. That's why he's always played in Spain. France never made the trip over to England, really. It's because his English was never that good. I think that's partially why he didn't attend the press conference, because he doesn't want his stuff taken out of word, mistranslation, especially in a market like New York where all eyes are on you, all the media is there, and they had all the top journalists there for that one. So it's one of those things. Do you expect anything to come of that? Do you think they'll be able to punish Messi?
And lose TV ratings? No.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? No, they will not do that. It's not fair, but you don't punish your biggest stars. You see it in other leagues as well. What was it? Have you seen the oh gosh, what's the documentary? The Netflix one with the ref. Gosh, what was his
the ref that was taking bribes and
Yeah, what's his name? I'm spacing on his name.
I don't know his name.
Whatever his name, when he talked about when he called, what was it, a travel or a technical on Jordan or whatever it was. And Phil Jackson came up to him and was like, you don't call that on him. Like, you just don't call that on him.
Yeah.
Stars in the league are treated differently because at the end of the day, whatever league it is, NBA, MLS, whatever, want their star players, especially American sports for sure. I think overseas with soccer, it's a little bit different, but in the U.S., they get a certain kind of treatment because you want them out there. Like, can you think of the last time LeBron has really fouled out?
Nope.
Like, I feel like it just doesn't happen as much, and that's why I don't think anything's going to come of this. What are you going to do? Bench Messi, the guy who's suddenly getting your league international attention? You're not gonna do that. I mean, what you might fine him a few $1,000. I think that could be the punishment, but you're not going to make it so he can't play because that hurts you as an organization. No, they're not going to punish him. Not in that sense that he won't play. They want him to play. They need those viewers. They need the money. They won't make him can't play.
I mean, I think everyone's recognized how much bigger the MLS has grown just since signing Messi to Inter Miami. I highly doubt he'll be suspended. I really think if anything, it would be a fine, but at the end of the day, that's kind of pocket change to him. So the team, not all that much to worry about, but it's the fact that if there is a real punishment handed out, I'm going to be curious to see what happens if he misses another second or third press conference with these requirements that he's meant to be made available. Then I'll be interested to see what happens. But at that point, it might just be fine after fine after fine, just getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
A lot of interesting things to see what happens there. So
I do find it interesting. I've always wondered this, like, why wouldn't you improve on your English? This was always my thought if you're Messi, because that's just, I feel like so much of the global market is English, speaking English, understanding English. But I guess he's just so good and so big that it doesn't matter. That's just kind of been my final way that I can that feels like the only way you can look at it. He's just so big that he doesn't have to actually learn English.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, especially growing up playing in Spain for him, and even Argentina before. Argentina, Spain, Spanish is obviously the primary language, both those. Moves to France. French and Spanish aren't all that dissimilar, so that might be an easier transition. I think him going to Miami is obviously he likes Miami. He knew he had a house down there before and would go down on vacation with his family, but it's also very much a Spanish-speaking part of the U.S., so that makes him kind of feel at home. He can go out and talk to people in Spanish and all that. Whereas the other one he was looking at was maybe Saudi Arabia. Big language difference. That one he'd probably be having to speak either Arabic or English more, and I don't know which one would be harder to learn.
Oh, dude, I don't know. I guess maybe there's some although Arabic did have some level of influence on Spanish language. So I don't know. But yeah, I don't know actually, because there's some English words come from the Romance languages, and then Arabic also had an influence in Spain. So I don't know which one would actually be easier for him to learn. But I just always found that interesting. But yeah, it definitely makes sense that he ended up going to Miami, because huge Spanish-speaking population. You can find people to speak Spanish to you there. Like, say he moved to I don't know, Nashville. I don't think there's a huge Spanish-speaking population there. I could be totally wrong, yeah. I feel like that's a lot more English speaking, country driven. So yeah, definitely makes sense why he went to Miami. But yeah, at the end of the day, I just always found that interesting. Like, why wouldn't you want to do that to market yourself better? But I guess there's a certain point where you're just so good at what you do and so popular that you don't have to do that. You're just are going to be marketable no matter what you do.
I 100% agree on that. Do want to take a step away from the MLS and Messi and move across the ocean to the Serie A because that season is now in full swing. And one of the key signings that has really stepped up was Christian Pulisic so far for AC Milan. Won their last match 4-1. He scored his second goal of the season already. And I think he has more goals in 2 matches for Milan than he did in 24 for Chelsea last year.
Yeah,
This
twice.
is what we're talking about. This is the kind of change he needed, get out of that Chelsea squad, and now it's working out for him.
Yeah, he already has twice as many goals this season than he had last season. All two of them. But
Yeah,
no, I've been saying it. I think you've been saying it too. Chelsea's just kind of been a dumpster fire of late, and it oftentimes isn't the best landing spot for young attacking talents. We've seen Kevin De Bruyne go to Chelsea at a young age, doesn't work out, goes to Wolfsburg, and now he's like probably the best playmaker in the world. I, I would say that I don't think there's any playmaker better than him. Maybe Messi, but
I would still probably take Kevin De Bruyne over Messi
for
at this point, which is hard to say, but
that passing ability, though, I mean, it's kind of hard to argue with that. And then Mo Salah went to Chelsea at a young age, didn't work out. Also went to Serie A like Pulisic, balled out for Roma, and now he is one of the best players in the world. Again, not saying Pulisic will reach those heights, but there's obviously a talented player there. We saw it in lockdown. Pulisic, he can ball out. He was just in a bad situation where the club didn't have faith in him, whether that was the manager or the fans. And I think he just was down on himself there as well. So yeah, goes to Milan, and suddenly he's playing like the Pulisic that we all want to see. 2 goals in 2 games. That first goal was absolutely like I don't even know how to describe it. It was stupendous. The way he grabbed it in stride and fired it far post. Brilliant goal. And then yeah, gets a second one in this game. Off to a great start. And he's making a huge impact for Milan. I was kind of curious to see how he'd actually perform there. I didn't think he'd be doing too well off the start, to be completely honest. But so far, he's taken his opportunity in stride.
yes, he has. And it is 2 matches in, so it will be a lot of time left. They do play Roma on Friday. That'll be first real test because much as Bologna and Torino are decent sides, it's not there's levels to the league, and it's really that AC Milan, the Napoli, the Juventus, Inter, to an extent Roma at times, even though they haven't really gotten off to a very good start this season so far. The one that I have been disappointed with that I kind of expected more of in the Serie A was Lazio. Didn't have a terrible season last year, already winless in their first 2 this year, and just haven't looked well. I mean, they had 71% possession, but they're not creating anything. Maybe they're getting unlucky. It's just not something's not going right there, and I kind of expected more. Again, it is early, but
Yeah, it's only 2 games in, so we got to keep that in perspective. But I mean, I feel like winning the possession battle by about 30%, but then losing the game is so disheartening. Because then it's like, why are we doing this? Like, what are we doing? You start to question everything you're doing because you're like, we do all the things right. We're passing, we're retaining possession, we're dominating the flow of play, but we're not winning. And that I feel like that can really take a mental toll on players and fans, but definitely players. So yeah, not a good start from Lazio. Again, only 2 games in. Probably not going to change a lot of what they're doing, but you definitely expect a lot more from them. You don't want to lose to Genoa at home in a game that you dominate, but you only have 2 shots on goal with 70% possession. At that point, you're literally playing a rondo the whole time. You really are. I mean, I guess you had 16 shot attempts, but if you only get 2 on target, that's just not a good day. Genoa won the shots on target battle. So, yeah, terrible, terrible offensive performance from Lazio.
yeah, it's just have the possession, not doing anything with it, and you're not going to score if you only get 2 shots on target.
Yeah.
Realistically, at the end of the day, it's not feasible way to win, and hasn't been for them so far. But
Mm-mm.
says long season. What are your expectations for Serie A? Do you have any predictions of who you think will win the league? Because so far it seems Napoli's probably got to be the favorite still after their amazing season last year and kept around a lot of their players for this season.
Mm.
AC Milan have kind of rebuilt and added some extra attacking there, which will benefit them. Can't count out Inter, but really I think it's one of those three, in my opinion.
Yeah. And I agree with you. I think the favorite has to be Napoli. If they kept Kim in center back, I definitely would have said Napoli for sure. But I mean, AC Milan's are pretty damn good. So I feel like you definitely have to throw them in the mix. Um, I don't know how I feel about Juventus, to be completely honest. I don't think they'll win this year.
They need to fix their attack a bit. In my opinion, they still need another striker, a true number 9. It's not
Yeah,
looking too hot so far. Vlahovic hasn't been the guy everyone was hoping he would be after his time in Fiorentina. Does have 2 goals, but it's against Udinese and Bologna. A guy like Lukaku would have been a very good signing for them. I still think he will end up somewhere in Italy, whether it is going to Juventus, it doesn't look like that, or back to Inter Milan. I think that one's much more feasible, but I do think he will be back there. And he's a kind of guy that we spoke about last week that can really change it, and something that one of these teams could take advantage of.
yeah, and you wonder if he'll help change Roma's fortunes right now because we're talking about Lazio having a bad start. Roma's also been pretty friggin' horrendous. 2-2
Yeah.
opening day against Salernitana, and then you lose 2-1 to a Verona team that was a man down.
Yep.
That is not a good
With that
start.
being said, the red card did come in the 84th minute, so it didn't
Yeah,
play a huge role. But you can't concede 4 minutes in.
no, you can't. You really can't. Yeah, they do not look good off the get. A lot of upsets, to be fair, in Serie A the opening days. The only teams that really looked like good are Milan and Napoli and Verona. Honestly, I mean they've got 2 wins, which is pretty impressive. But out of the big boys, Milan and Napoli look solid. Everyone else though has had their hiccups. Inter's only on 3 points. Atalanta lost this week, so not a great start for a lot of teams that are contending for at least Champions League spots in Serie A.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if it's going to take a toll of last season, how so many of those Italian teams did make long, deep runs into the Champions League. Obviously, Inter made it to the final, but I know AC, Napoli were all kind of in there fighting Roma in the UEFA or Europa League. It's one of those interesting leagues that there's a lot that goes into it, and it's just I don't want to keep an eye on, but want to move on unless you have anything else on the Serie A.
Nothing really.
All right.
Interesting games this week, though. That we should talk.
Yes,
We could talk about that. Yeah.
there are some ones. Obviously, Roma, Milan, Napoli, Lazio, probably the 2 big ones. I'd throw Inter and Fiorentina. Inter Milan still play later today in actually 10 minutes against Cagliari. They could end up 2-0 on the season, starting out strong there as well. But
Yeah. The Roma Milan one should be fun. I'm looking forward to that one a lot.
this is
But
one that Roma needs to win or needs
yeah,
to at least get something from to give them a confidence boost and keep Jose Mourinho from going crazy.
yeah, and there's no better way to do it than against an AC Milan team that's flying high at the moment. If you get a win against them, you're at home too, so you got that going for you. If you get a win, it can change the attitude around the club very quickly. And yeah, I expect Napoli to kill Lazio, honestly.
Yeah, I do as well. Lazio, like we said, hasn't looked good, and Napoli has looked very good.
Mm-hmm.
But moving away from Italy, going to Spain, La Liga, 3 matches in, and it's been pretty dominant by Real Madrid so far. But there is some news there. Vinicius Jr. is now going to be out for 4 weeks. Just adds another injury to that team. And as good
Yeah.
as they are, all these injuries could add up.
They could. They'll still be fine for now. They're by far the best team in La Liga. I think anyone who argues otherwise, like those crazy Barcelona fans I see out there, are living in a state of absolute delusion because Real Madrid's definitely the best team. But losing Vinicius Jr. is a huge loss because he's just so damn good. Like, he really is. Granted, you have Bellingham who can just keep doing his thing right now because he's been absolutely incredible. But like I like it. I think we talked about it last show. He's been incredible from the start for them. But obviously Vinicius Jr., huge talent, able to just create so much on the wing with his pace and his dribbling ability and his ability to find the final ball and finish. So huge loss for them. I still think they'll be fine though. Who do they play this week?
Real.
Yeah, they're playing. Okay, they're playing Getafe, so they should be fine. But they do have Sociedad on September 16th, so that'll be right around.
And then they also have the Madrid derby in a couple weeks' time, so that's another big one that they'll be without Vinicius for.
Yeah, so I guess some big games that he'll be missing, which could play a part. It'd be interesting to see how they handle not having their like star winger, but I think they'll honestly be fine.
I mean, one way or another, they can just change the formation, change up their style a bit. Because Vinicius came off, I want to say it was Joselu or Nacho that came on, and they just reload. Even looking at their midfield, they start out with 4 really young guys and then bring on subs of Toni Kroos and Luka Modric. That team is just pretty stacked top to bottom. My big question of concern is really the goalkeeper because I don't really trust Azpilicueta that much. I just think we saw maybe he needed another guy to be out of Chelsea to kind of get his game going again, but
You mean Kepa? Yeah. You said Azpilicueta. That threw me off for a second. Yeah.
No, I'm wrong there. I thought I messed up his last name then.
Arrizabalaga.
Yeah. Saw the letters.
Yeah, one of those Spanish A names.
Is what it is.
Yeah, I agree.
It's Barcelona. They had a very exciting match this week, 4-3 against Villarreal, and they're an interesting team because obviously they do have the talent, but it seems like something is still missing. One way or another, the midfield hasn't really stepped up. Gundogan doesn't seem to really be flowing yet, like we saw him with Manchester City. Lewandowski's still scoring, but he's going to score no matter where he plays.
Yeah.
Barcelona's in an interesting position, especially with Pedri being injured.
That's the key thing right there. Because he and Gavi are so good, but if you lose one of them, who are you going to replace them with, you know? Because I don't think they have that same level of depth that, like, Madrid has, for example. Because without him, you play Romeo. Oh, my God. You play Romeo. Like, that's just not exciting. First of all, his release clause is maybe the craziest thing I've ever seen in any sports, like transfer, trade, whatever. That is absolutely absurd to me. But you have to play him instead of Pedri, and you don't have Gavi. It can just really kind of like if you were to lose Gavi as well, is what I'm saying. You're just not going to replace that. Looks like Gavi played left wing though.
Yep.
Yeah, interesting. But yeah, I think when you lose Pedri in that midfield and you have to play Romeo, it's just not going to be the same. It's not going to have the same impact. Also, like you said, Gundogan's not really flowing yet. Hasn't really gotten back into his way of playing that we're used to seeing because, I mean, moving to a new team, Xavi's obviously going to be similar to Guardiola, but he's still a different manager. Playing in a different league with different physical demands, you're going to have to kind of get used to that. So it makes sense that he's not quite up to speed yet. But if you're going to want to keep up with Madrid, you're going to need to figure it out pretty quickly because I think in the Villarreal game, obviously great win for him on the road, but you conceded 3 goals as well. So you got to look at it defensively at what Christensen, Koundé, Roberto, and Alonso were doing. First, I don't think Barcelona's wingback or fullback, are good enough. I've been saying that. This preseason, they all looked awful. I mean, starting with Serginho Dest, we'll throw an American under the but it was absolutely horrendous. You get
Yeah.
it. But then Alonso is not good. I don't think he's very good. Roberto was once very good. I don't think he's very good anymore. So I feel like you lose a lot on the wings. I don't know how Villarreal scored their goals. I haven't watched the highlights yet. I would not be shocked if some of it came from out wide or started out wide or included something where the fullbacks effed up. But even
Yeah.
then, when you're looking at the center back partnership of Christensen and Kunde, that's not as solid as when you look at other top level teams. You know?
Hmm. I mean, you talk about the fullback position. That's why I think this João Cancelo move is so important for Barcelona. It looks like it's going to be made official soon. A loan deal from Manchester City, but he just adds a different aspect. He can be that ball playing outside back and just make runs up the wing, still get back and defend as needed. But he just adds a different aspect that we don't see from Alonso or Roberto.
Yeah. And yeah, no, great signing for them because I think when I was watching them in preseason, that was like my main thing is, damn, they're just not very good. But now you can't, like, they're good, but they're not the level you'd want at Barcelona. So now having Cancelo, who I still think is one of the best outside backs in the world, is great signing for them. Also, quick shout out: American goalkeeper was on the bench for Barca this game. Diego Koken, youngster, is on the bench. So for all you USMNT enthusiasts like myself, just a fun little note.
Maybe the future goalkeeper to replace Matt Turner at some
Nah,
point.
we have Gaga for that, but still backing Gaga to be world class. That's the hope right now.
Yeah. There is one team that's really disappointing in La Liga at the moment. Through 3 matches, the only team without a point is Sevilla. And they just, from the matches I've watched, haven't looked anything special. It seems like last year they were almost dragged into a relegation battle, did escape it with a little bit of comfort, while also doing what they always do and winning the Europa League somehow, some way. Seems like clockwork. They always find a mid-table finish, win Europa League, qualify for Champions League, get knocked out, and repeat the cycle.
Yeah.
This year it's a rough start. They have been scoring 5 goals in 3 matches, but they've conceded 8 times. And losing against Genoa, Alves, and Valencia. Not a good start, especially when they have to play Atletico Madrid next.
Yeah, I mean, 0 points from 3 games. That's the kind of stuff you expect from Luton Town. It's not what you expect from Sevilla, who is a perennial Champions League contending team in Spain. Oh, yeah, horrendous start, to say the least. Because, like, everyone else in the league's gotten a point. They're the only team that is yet to pick up a point through 3 games. So, yeah, they got to figure it out and figure it out fast. But unfortunately for them, like you said, this Sunday they have to travel to Madrid to play Atletico. So,
and to add more salt on the wound, there's a potential chance that their forward, Yusuf En-Nesyri, could be off to West Ham. I know the Hammers are interested in him and are trying to get that signing done before Friday's deadline. That'd be a big loss for them because he's really their go-to goal scorer.
Which, first of all, if they get that done, what a window for West Ham. But second of all, yeah, no, that's a huge loss because En-Nesyri is a baller, especially in the air. His ability to win those headers, his ability to run in behind, his physical presence up top makes him such a challenge for defenders to deal with. We saw it during the World Cup when he was playing with Morocco and took him all the way to semifinals. He's a very, very good player. So if you lose him, have they been scoring? I guess they
have 5 goals for 8 conceded.
Yeah, so they have been scoring
as well.
So it's mainly a defensive problem, it looks like. But still, you don't want to lose your best goal scorer and your main attacking threat, I'd say.
No, definitely don't, because we've seen teams in the past do that and really struggle to keep anything going. And that's the kind of thing that could separate a team from staying up or being relegated. Still back Sevilla a bit to at least get some sort of points and not be one of the three worst teams. Wouldn't it be great? Or wouldn't it be funny? I think I was going to say this with West Ham last season. Sevilla wins the Europa League somehow because we know they're going to end up there again. They did call it the Champions League, but they'll go out, make it to Europa League. If we win Europa League, we get relegated. We'll see a second division Spanish team playing in the Champions League next season.
Could be fun.
Would be interesting. Would be entertaining. I was hoping for the same with West Ham, win the Conference League and get relegated, but
yeah, they pulled it out. Yeah, which again, we'll talk about this in our Premier League podcast later this week. Make sure you watch. But yeah, dude, what a window! And if they get En-Nesyri, they're looking real good. I think they came out on top with the Declan Rice sale right now. I'm really saying that. They beat Arsenal better off than Arsenal.
Yeah, and they've invested. The thing is, we've seen players before a team get a whole load of money for one player, then just throw it around willy-nilly. They've spent the money from Declan Rice very, very well and brought in some very, very good players. Continue saying it. James Ward-Prowse, one of the best signings of the season. That has been superb, and he's paying off so far.
Yeah, I wish they had done that signing before we did our roundtable, and we did bargain signing, best signing.
Yeah,
he probably would have been the one.
I mean, we'll just talk about it briefly. That 3-1 win against Brighton was extremely impressive. And we'll definitely talk into it more in detail on our Premier League podcast that will be later this week. Jackson said, make sure you guys go check that out. It's called Football on the Vendetta Media YouTube channel. I have 2 episodes down. Third one that will be coming up later this week. That's where we'll really break down these matches. But just briefly, James Ward-Prowse gets another goal, and it was domination by West Ham against a Brighton side that had looked much better all season and even dominated in possession in this one, 78-22.
Yeah. Brighton's been looking like one of the best teams in the Prem to start off with. And to be fair, yeah, dominated possession and honestly killed in the shots. They 25 total shots, 10 on target. So fair play to who was it, Fabianski in goal? No, it was what am I saying? Ariola in goal.
Yeah.
But, yeah, fair play to him. But 3-1 win, like kind of hard to argue with that. They did their job. Ward-Prowse got himself another goal, or is that his second goal or his first goal?
I think second.
Second, right? Yeah. Then obviously Bowen and Antonio, 2 kind of stalwarts who have been there for a little bit now. But yeah, they've really they've improved the side compared to where they were last year, I think. Because, yeah, you lose Declan Rice, you lose that leader. But instead you bring in Edson Alvarez, who's a very good player. Hate to say that because he plays for the Mexican national team, but he's a very good defensive midfielder, deep-lying kind of midfielder, whatever role you want to play him in. You get Ward-Prowse, who for years has been one of the best playmakers in the Prem. Great set piece. Yeah. And then now you might get like En-Nesyri.
They just signed Mohamed Kudus, which I think is a brilliant signing.
Yeah, you get him in the midfield, and you keep Paqueta.
There's sneaky team.
Yeah.
Wouldn't mind seeing a little more attacking prowess, and En-Nesyri would definitely help with that. But Mikel Antonio is a goal now. Jared Bowen has been playing superbly so far. They're an interesting team.
Yeah.
We'll get into a lot more of that on our Premier League show later this week, as we mentioned. In Spain still, I do want to talk again on the situation surrounding Luis Rubiales, because there's been more news coming out. Now one I saw today was his mom is now locked herself in a church, I believe, and is refusing to eat anything until her son gets treated better. It's such a weird situation. It really shouldn't be that big of a deal because it shouldn't be happening, but it isn't. I work in a restaurant. Even when I was working yesterday, there were people talking about it who clearly didn't follow a ton of soccer in the world, but they're like, oh yeah, this happened, and now all this stuff is happening after it. It's caught the attention of everybody, and it's kind of amazing to see that aspect.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I know there's this whole thing where mothers protect their children, but how can you objectively look at that as a woman and be like, oh, they're mistreating my son? I guess it is different culturally, and she's from a different time, but still, it's like, really? Hunger strike? It's almost comical to me.
Hmm.
Um, but I think he should have just, taken his punishment and resigned right after that. That's what most normal people would do. I'm not gonna lie, you F up that badly, you'd be like, all right, you know what? I got to cut my losses here. This isn't going to end well for me. I feel like he's just digging a deeper and deeper, deeper hole. He's already been, what was it, sanctioned by who sanctioned him?
FIFA.
FIFA, right? Yeah. So I don't know, dude. If I think he just should step down. I mean, at least this point for his own sake. Like,
He's been given a 90-day suspension by FIFA. It's the fact that we mentioned last week that there have been some other female players speaking up. I've also seen guys like David De Gea, Iker Casillas, other prominent players on the Spanish national team in the past comment on how this guy should be out and that sort of thing. I saw there was a match for the ladies Atletico Madrid team the other night. I'm gonna say probably last night, and one of their players scored a goal and lifted up Hermoso's jersey as kind of celebration while she was sitting in the crowd. So they're trying to make a stand, but I don't see anything really drastic happening.
no.
Maybe he'll lose his job, but even that 90-day suspension, I feel like they'll go back to it because it's hard to find someone to replace someone in a position like that.
Yeah. Also worth noting, talking about like kind of the people supporting the players. What was it? It was a game in Germany. I think it was Eintracht Frankfurt fans had like a poster made for it. So yeah, getting attention from all over the world. But yeah, I don't think anything like a 90-day suspension really isn't that bad.
No.
When you think about it, especially considering the time we're in right now, it's after the Women's World Cup. You'd have time to get back in the stride of things before the Euros. It's really not that big of a suspension. 90 days isn't that much. That's not even 3 months. So I don't know. Like you said, I don't think anything serious will come from this. He should lose his job for sure, but who knows? Who knows?
Some transfer news that has just come in really broke 3 minutes ago by Fab Romano is Romelu Lukaku has a new home. He is going to AS Roma on a loan deal until for the remainder of the season. Big signing for Roma.
Mm-hmm. We were talking about earlier with the struggles that they've had. He could come in and make an instant impact for sure. Big physical presence up top who can score goals as long as he's not wearing the Belgium shirt. He can score goals. And then, his experience doing well in Italy. So I think it's a great signing for Mourinho. Obviously, Mourinho's managed him before. So, yeah, great signing for them. Maybe he can turn things around and starting this weekend against AC Milan. Because I assume he'll just go right into starting 11, honestly.
You would assume so. I know he hasn't played a match yet this season because he's been in the midst of all this move. So maybe he's not quite match fit yet. Maybe give him a week of readjustment or bring him on as a super sub sort of thing. But I don't think it'll be very long until we see him playing for and starting for Roma.
Yeah, definitely not.
There is another transfer I would like to kind of discuss. It's not official yet, but it's trending in the direction of Man City's favor. Mateus Nunes, midfielder from Wolves, looks to be going to Manchester City. That's a big signing for them after losing Kevin De Bruyne for the rest of 2023.
Mm-hmm.
Bringing in a talented, youngish midfielder, because he is only 25, that has shown strides playing for both Wolves and the Portuguese national team. I think this is a very good signing, especially considering they were trying to get Kudus and then he ended up going to West Ham.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is an unfortunate situation for them that they had to go out and make, or I guess it's not confirmed, but had to go out and try and find a deal for someone to replace De Bruyne.
Yeah.
I mean, you get someone with Premier League experience who's a very talented player. Obviously, not going to be De Bruyne, but could be a good replacement option. I always feel bad for these signings, though, when you're brought in to replace someone injured like De Bruyne. What happens as soon as they come back? You're kind of just not necessarily tossed out, but you just end up not playing as much.
Yeah.
So I guess hopefully he's aware of this and he's understanding that this is probably going to be a short stay in Manchester unless he completely balls out. But I mean, I think that's a good replacement for what they were given. Again, lost Kudus to West Ham. Kudus probably saw the writing on the wall a little bit with that and was like, I'd rather just go somewhere I can actually be one of the guys rather than a Calvin Phillips kind of player in the future. Yeah, I mean, if from a City perspective, I guess this is about as good as you can do.
Yeah, I think it's a good signing. Good creative, attacking-minded midfielder that can do a little bit of everything, is still relatively young. So worst comes to it, it doesn't pan out perfectly. He does well enough, but then De Bruyne comes back. You're not going to leave De Bruyne on the bench. Maybe Nunez just finds his way in and out of the squad in cup games and that sort of stuff. There is one other transfer I want us to talk about. We've talked about it a little bit in the past. I don't know which way it's going to go. I can see both, but Mohamed Salah, Al Ittihad are continuing to push for him. They really want to get Salah to make that move to Saudi Arabia, and I just don't know. I see both sides very, very possible. Him to stay in Liverpool and him to go to Saudi Arabia. What are your expectations as of this very second?
I think he'll stay, but every time I've said that, they've left and gone to Saudi Arabia. So I don't know anymore. I've been through the kind of my perspective is Europe's the best place to play. It's the most competitive. You get the most attention on you. Why would you want to play at the highest level? But then we've seen people like Neymar go to Saudi Arabia, even though he has full intention to return to Europe after a year. We've seen other players just make the move over Neves and Jota and Milinkovic-Savic, who are still relatively young. So I don't know. And I think we talked about this last week as well, but the Arabic aspect and the Muslim aspect might play a part here because he gets to go to a country that's more, I guess not more, they're completely understanding of his religious background and beliefs. Yeah, I wonder if the Newcastle or if the Liverpool's win over Newcastle will help convince him to stay.
Potentially.
Yeah, but I don't know with this one. If I was a betting man, I bet that he stays, but I would not be shocked if he goes.
No, not at all. I think what could happen is he'll agree to personal terms, but then Liverpool and Klopp won't let him leave, won't agree to those other terms. The offer I saw was quite a bit of money, $162 million bid to get Mo to go to the Saudi team. And God, that'd be a fun front three. It would be, I don't know who the third, but Benzema and Mo Salah running an attacking line together.
Yeah.
That would be very, very dangerous.
Who else they have? Conte in the midfield.
No, that was their other signing.
Romarinho, apparently. That's the other one.
Yeah, I still haven't gotten around to watching a single Saudi game. I don't know what channel is really showing it. I heard it was Fox at some point.
Yeah. So. You heard that from me.
Yeah.
I haven't yet to see any of them on. I watched some highlights and it looked absolutely horrendous. So I'm not going to lie. I hope there's some Saudi enthusiasts watching this because that means our podcast will actually have some reach. But it's terrible, man. It's not great. It's not great. People are saying it's better than MLS or living in a fantasy land. I still have to get that post done because that pisses me off. It is not better than the MLS. You can have all these future retiring stars as you want. It's just not better because when you look at players who aren't those three superstars on your team, the level drops so far. Yeah. It was bad. The highlights I watched were just genuinely bad. Fan support looked pretty good, though. I'll give them that. The fan support actually looks pretty good over there.
Definitely feel like the atmosphere is all excited over there. So that
Mhm.
aspect was fun. I mean, I went and saw one of the Saudi Arabia matches of the World Cup, and their crowd was great from what I saw.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
very passionate. Obviously, that wasn't too far of a trip for them to get to Qatar, but they're a passionate fan base, and they want to see all these star players and have the money to do so. So why not enjoy it?
yeah.
Jackson, I don't really have much else. Maybe you have any other topics you want to discuss before we wrap this up? We are at the 50-minute mark.
Honestly, not a whole lot. It's about to get busy though, with the deadline coming up later
Yeah.
this week. So we're about to have to get on our horses again with some coverage. I'll get a Cancelo post going, and then we got to get a Lukaku post going, and go from there. But yeah, fun times. Deadline day is a coming.
Yep. Friday, September 1st. This Friday will be the deadline day for at least the top 5 leagues in Europe. Those are the big ones with the most money. So that's the big day. Make sure you guys keep an eye on the Vendetta Sports Media Daily Show on Friday, because there's a very real possibility that it'll be Jackson and I taking over again to kind of do a live kind of transfer deadline show where we'll
Mhm.
be on here talking about everything that's happening minute by minute. So make sure you tune in for that. Tune in also for the other daily shows throughout the rest of this week. We will have one every day, as we always do. Jackson, thank you for joining me. As always, been a pleasure. Love talking soccer. Thank you, the viewers, for watching, and we'll see you guys at some point this week.